It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmic Voice. Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Voice. This is Season 5, Episode 23. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
What's up, everybody?
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris, good morning to you. How are you, sir?
Good morning, sir. Good morning. If you're listening to this in the morning, then it is a good morning. We are recording this in the morning. So, yes, it is a good morning so far. My day hasn't started yet. It will, but I have good intentions today.
Good intentions. You got to have good intentions.
I woke up and have good intentions today. If you listen to our last show, you will understand that. If not, then you probably should go back and listen to it. Definitely is one of my favorites up till now. It's definitely one of my top 5 favorite shows that we've done.
It was a great
So I woke
episode.
up today with good intentions for my day. A little excited. The weather's not cooperating today. It's a little gloomy, like we had said off the air. But whatever. Hey, man, it is what it is. It's, it's still a day. We still woke up above ground, and it's a good start, right?
Yeah, it's a fantastic start. Any day you open up your eyes and go, okay, I made it, I guess it's a good start. And you make the best of it every day, right? And here we are, early morning, recording another show. And like we've been talking about the last couple episodes, we are creeping to the end of the season. I don't know where it's gone, but it's gone to 23 episodes, so it's amazing.
Crazy, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. We say this all the time. Like, as we get older, time just goes faster. It's amazing to me. Yesterday, me and the wife were out running errands, and we left early. And then I looked at my watch, and it was like 3:30, and I'm like, "Oh my god! Like, where'd the day go? Like, it just flies by, man.
Flies by.
So I stopped telling my wife to do this too. We'd wake up, and as a goof, the first thing you do in the morning goes, "A Friday yet?" Especially if it's a Monday. And I stopped doing that because you find yourself, you're rushing to the weekend, and you're just doing it all over. Next thing you know, you're like 50 weekends in.
Yeah.
There's another year. You know what I mean? Like, so I stopped doing that. I just take it. I wake up and go, it's a day, and I'm going to handle this day today and not even worry about tomorrow. And I'm getting better at that. When you go, is it Friday yet? You're just rushing your week, man. And that's not good because the time just flies by.
You're compacting everything, cramming it into like 2 days, and it's crazy.
Yes.
And so a number of years ago, I finally started to say to my wife, I go, we're adults. If we want to do something on a Tuesday night, we're allowed. We're paying for it. I don't care what anybody says. You know what I mean? I want to stay up a little later. Not like I can. It's just kind of like for some reason I just start shutting down. But I tell myself I have the right to stay up later.
Exactly. Yep.
That's right. I'm going to watch another episode. So hit play. My wife will go, what do you want to do? I go, what time is it? She goes, it's 9:33. I go, well, let's do another episode. She goes, are you going to make it? I go, well, and I'm insulted, but she's absolutely right. Am I going to make it? And the macho in me goes, just hit play, will you? 20 minutes later, I'm out.
Opening credits.
Yeah, I'm going, what happened? What happened to that person? Did they live? Did they die? I'm not telling you. You have to watch it on your own. And I never do. So, I binge watch, but I only binge watch 75% of each episode because I'm,
Dude, that is so true.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
True.
It's just a nutbag. But you know what I mean? But it is. It's like, I don't know, man. It's crazy. But I try not to do that either. It's like I try to take each day as best I can. And unfortunately, I try to cram as much as I can into any day. So it's not just the weekends. And I'm usually doing work over the weekend, so then you go,
what happened to the weekend?
Monday comes around and people go, how was your weekend? Too fast.
Yep, exactly. I am guilty of that too. When I go in the office tomorrow, but how'd you weekend? I'm going to go too fast. I need another day.
Too fast. You could have off 25 days from work, and somebody goes, how was the vacation? Went too fast.
Went too fast. Yep, 100%. 100%. That is absolutely true.
Because we do. We often wear ourselves out on the time that we have available to us because we're trying to make up for lost time. It's crazy.
Well, yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, well, we've somehow in our lives gotten to this point where we, and I always see the memes, we work, 8 hours a day and you sleep for 8 and you only have so much. Like, it's so true.
Yeah,
like,
it is crazy.
It is crazy. Like, and I say it all the time, whoever invented the 5-day, 8-hour work week or 9-hour, 10-hour, that's pretty average for most people at this point, I hope suffered a very slow and painful demise.
The average concrete quarry worker, which is a large percentage of that demographic, works 60 hours a week normally.
I do. I believe
that's their normal work hour week. It's normal to them. It's crazy.
I believe that.
Yeah,
it is crazy.
Nothing
man.
under 50 hours for that line of work.
It's crazy to me, bro. And then I pull in an average 9, sometimes 10, but I pretty much average a 9-hour day. I'm just a truck driver, so not just truck driver, but I'm a truck driver, so I can't imagine. I know how much scheduling time I have trouble with in my life, so I can't imagine these people that work doctor's hours or
it's crazy.
Hospitals or
it's crazy.
It is crazy.
I think that the newer, not that, again, has nothing to do with the topic or theme of this show, but a lot of critics today complain that the newer generation, the younger generation, doesn't want to work. They don't want to put the time in. They don't want to make that commitment, that dedication. But there's that sentiment among that generation. It's like they've watched generations before work these long hours until their 60s, some people into their 70s, because people are working longer because they have to. They can't afford something, or they didn't, they didn't plan correctly. And then they only have a few years to enjoy it, and some of them don't even make that because you're already... So
it's true.
So there's that mentality. It's like, well, why should I put this in? I'm not getting really anything in return. And with the new model today, there isn't pensions, and some companies don't offer good 401ks. It's up to you to make your own investments. So there's no vested interest on both sides anymore.
Yeah, it's true.
And
it's true. It's very true.
As companies rise and fall and cut strings, there's no attachment. So you got people that are moving from job to job every couple years. They're hopping around either position and or money. They follow the money trail, so to speak, right? And I understand that, because as our economy keeps skyrocketing in terms of what it's costing us to survive, and we've talked about this before, because musicians are having the same issue, right, with touring, because everything's more expensive, but the artist isn't making any more money.
It's right.
Some aren't making anything.
Yeah.
So they're not even breaking even, like we talked about. Like, breaking even's a good thing, but that's not even happening. But think about what's happening in regular life. I mean, as gas goes up, as food prices goes up, and clothing, everything else, but wages aren't changing. You can understand why people are job hopping.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%.
And unfortunately, one of the thought processes, or one of the choices, like, the A, B, and C box, is I'm not going to do anything at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, and they get that idea. That's why I think the sentiment in that younger generation to have socialism, have the government take care of us, is so predominant. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't really want somebody giving me handouts and helping me out. I prefer to do it on my own. The last thing I want is somebody to dictate to me what cell phone carrier I have to use, when I can go buy toilet paper, and because of my last name, I can only get gas on Monday, Friday at 12 midnight, and Sunday morning at 7 a.m. I don't know. Do you remember that? In the 70s when you had to go get gas on certain days?
I didn't remember it till you started to kind of get into the story, and I'm like, that kind of sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, I remember sitting in lines, my parents in the car, and it was just normal. No one complained about it per se. I guess they did, but after a while, it was just something you had to do if you wanted to get gas. Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's so sad. It's crazy that, that we're in this time, and our generation, and our parents' generation, like, works and works and works and then retires, and unfortunately, passes away. And kind of life did they live, and just working all the time and not really enjoying, what you're supposed to enjoy.
Yeah, it's a crazy system, and maybe we do need a little bit of tweaking here and there. So life expectancy, and I don't mean just the length of time, but what you can expect out of life can be a little better in a sense. I don't know, because not everybody gets the opportunities to experience life and what it has to offer. I mean, it's a shame that it's down to a very small percentage of billionaires that can enjoy what life has to offer, or the life that they can create because they have the means to, where everybody else is creating that life for them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah, it's true.
Man, what happened to this show?
Sunday morning.
What happened to this show? My head hurts. Oh my God, it's like one of those time travel Star Trek episodes. You're like, what? Wait a minute, hold on. Where are we at?
It's Russ the Boss.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmic Voice.
All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get right to the topic. Today's episode is about music and family, the balancing act. Now, it doesn't just have to be family. It could be friends. It could be if you have a job and you're touring. You could be balancing both things. You could have a full-time job in touring. You could do a part-time job in touring. You could be a contractor, and so you're only working so many months out of the year, and then you allow the other time in the year to tour. I've met teachers over the years on the road that they don't do anything between September and June, but end of June, middle of June to August, they're touring. They're on the road.
Yeah.
I remember Pat Benatar used to do that. Like, their kids were young.
Yep.
They didn't do anything during the school year, but they toured every summer. They would do summer tours. It is a balancing act. Even if you're young, super young, you may not realize it because you have all this focus, self-focus, right? It's in the moment. It's what I'm doing. It's me, and that's okay. But you do find, if you just kind of reflect for a second, oh, I still have to do this. I'm still responsible for this, whether you're going to school or, and doing this job and this and that. I mean, there's tons of stuff. What do you think, buddy? How you been handling it all these years? Some of that Nat wisdom. NatWisdom.com.
I don't know if it's wisdom, but I think that one thing, and I've run into this more now as I've gotten older, I think the one thing is that it's very important that you have to, and again, funny enough, going back to our last episode, communication. I think that it's super important, when you have a partner, even if they're not into what the kind of music that you do or understand it, you have to kind of lay that out and go, listen, like, this is my passion. This is what I really enjoy. This is what keeps me going, on a day-to-day basis. And there's going to be some sacrifice. There's going to be time away. And I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but, there has to be some kind of open communication and understanding. That's one thing that I've always found very important. I've pretty much laid that out right away, or, the people that I've been involved in through the years, or the people who I've been involved with through the years, like, they always kind of knew that going into it, that I am an artist. This is my passion. It means more to me. It means so much to me. Music is literally a part of my life. Honestly, if I'm not writing or playing and I'm listening to it, any aspect of the day, if I'm just getting ready for work and, I have music on, or, just driving to the local convenience store that's 5 minutes down the road, like, I have music on. Very rarely do I sometimes I sit in silence, but not very often. I just love music. So having that open communication to go, listen, like, this is my passion, and there's going to be times where I'm going to be away and there's sacrifices that I have to make. It's just something that I'm heavily involved in, and if that person understands, then that's an amazing thing to be able to have that understanding, and you're not getting a lot of stuff in your private life for you to be able to do this. Like I say, as I've gotten older, there have been many people in my life that their relationships have caused them some grief, some heartache, because the person doesn't understand that passion. Now, on that note, if people have kids and families, then obviously it's a little different. There also has to be that kind of balance. I think even if you have kids and a family, and you could probably attest to this more than anybody, there has to be that balance, but also too, there has to be that commitment too. Like, I totally understand that sometimes having kids and a family, that kind of stuff comes first before a band, because music for most of us are a passion, with hopefully an end goal to be somebody and to be successful, whatever your version of successful is. But sometimes, family does come first. Kids do come first. Family does come first. And I have seen that through the years. I have been in bands with guys that have kids. Sometimes things take precedence, and I totally understand that. I understand it more now, especially that I'm older. I didn't realize I was younger because I didn't have that experience. Now that I've gotten older, I do surround myself with people that do have families, and you know, their kids are everything to them, which I totally understand. And that's just something that you kind of have to realize, that me being in a band, being in 2 bands actually with guys that have kids, you kind of also have to be understanding of their situation too. Sometimes family does take precedence, and especially young kids, because a couple of my guys in my one band have super young kids. So, you know, that could be hard at times too, but, you know, they have that understanding with their partner that, you know, that this is something that we also have to do. And sometimes we have commitments, and if those commitments are made ahead of time, then we have to follow through on those commitments. Again, there's always gray areas, because sometimes stuff comes up, and I totally, you know, understand. Balancing with me and not having kids, it's hard. So I can't imagine people that do have kids, how much harder it is. I don't have kids, and it's hard because I am balancing work. I am balancing relationships. I am balancing, you know, I do have a widowed mother who's getting older. My mother-in-law is the same. She's also widowed and getting older. So we take care of our moms. You know, there's personal life, time to squeeze in with friends, time to, you know, do parties, and then there's travel, you know, your vacations, and it's hard, man. It's hard, but you have to just kind of plan it as much as you can. Realize that sometimes things aren't always going to work out. Like, again, like we were saying in the last episode, and just kind of learn how to handle it. It is not easy. I mean, it's not. And again, I don't have kids, so I know how hard it is for me to balance it. Now, you and I have spoken in previous episodes where, you know, where sometimes we've missed birthday parties, sometimes we've missed cookouts, sometimes we missed weddings, sometimes we missed funerals. I mean, I know I did only a handful of years ago. I had to miss a family member's funeral because we were traveling to California. I didn't want to cancel the show because we had put a lot of work into it. A lot of people bought tickets. There were people coming. And, you know, there were other people. It wasn't just me. And I know that family member, I've talked to other family members, and they were like, no, because the person who passed away, they would want you to go. They would tell you, he was still here, he would tell you, no, you don't come to my funeral. You go to California and do your thing. Like, I know you would want to be here. You know, that, again, just open communication with people, and people have to understand where you are. And there was an interesting thing for me, because with missing that funeral, I mean, obviously my wife didn't go with us to California, so she was kind of present at my family member's funeral, so she kind of represented the both of us. It was interesting for me because, you know, it's not like this is my living. You know, unfortunately, I can't live on this passion that I do. So it was interesting to me because there have been interviews I've read with, you know, like major artists that have said, I think the singer for X says too, Steve, I think I read an interview with him not too long ago. I think I mentioned in another show too, that he said he missed his own mom's funeral because they were going overseas. I think they were going to Brazil or something. He was like, I'm responsible for a core group of people making money, so I couldn't be at my mom's funeral. So for him to not be at his mom's funeral on his level is different, because a lot of people, if he were to cancel, a lot of people would have lost money. I'm sure everybody would have understood it, but everybody would have lost money. With me, I mean, nobody's losing money. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that, because the show still would have gone on without us there. It wasn't like we were the only band. It was a festival, but people were excited to see us. But like, if I can't, you know, if I couldn't make it and the band canceled, it would only have just been the 5 of us who weren't going. So that was an interesting thing for me to deal with on the way to California, because I was like, man, I kind of feel, I know he would have wanted me to play and not be there, but I kind of felt weird that I wasn't there. And then, but that was just something, you know, that's just one of those things where it's just a balancing act. Like, you just kind of have to, what is best, where you're going to look at yourself in the mirror the next day and go, I'm okay with this. You know, I'm okay with these decisions, because ultimately that's, you have to live with yourself, whether it's, you know, regret or, you know, you feel bad or whatever. And you kind of have to look at yourself. So you have to make decisions based on what's best for you. It goes with guys and women who are artists and families. They're trying to make that balancing act. And sometimes, again, like I said, families come first, even in rehearsals. You know, somebody has something to do with their kids. It is what it is. You just kind of figure it out. It's not easy, man. It is not easy. I've seen many artists divorce because of this life that we live, and some of us live every day, and some of us try to live it. A lot of relationships don't last. You know, when relationships don't last, I wonder if, because some people don't understand the passion that we have for what we do. People don't understand that, you know, they just go, oh, it's just a hobby, and you're just making music, and you're just screaming your head off. And I don't think people realize how important, at least for me, I don't think people realize how important this is for me, even just for my everyday life. Like, you know, to be able to look forward to that next hangout, that next writing session, the next recording, the next show. Like, that means a lot to me. And I don't know if people understand that. I think people just go, he's just trying to be a rock star. That'll never happen. So if he misses rehearsal or doesn't, cancels a show or doesn't go to a show, like, it's okay. But it's not. I don't think people understand the passion that we have for what we do.
I agree. There sometimes isn't the complete understanding, and it may not be ill intent. They just don't grasp it because either they don't have something like that in their life, they've never found something like that. But then, as you were saying, there are people that have certain passions, but they look at this as more of a hobby. This isn't really providing you with anything in a financial, stable, long-term type of environment. Let me start by saying, just so if anyone's listening, they go, well, these guys aren't, they're talking experiences and things that happened in their lives and throwing out some, there's this word again, advice. However, they're not these kinds of artists. And you're probably right. So we've been fortunate enough, and I think that, especially in my career, that I've had a lot of control over what takes place daily. It doesn't mean that it's always easy. Sometimes that decision is mine. Sometimes it's not. It's the luck of the draw. Because as I told somebody before, when somebody once said to me, you should do it this way. I says, well, unfortunately, I don't dictate to the venue or to the other touring bands what you should be or shouldn't be doing, right? So I've been presented with an opportunity. Now I have to weigh out the options. So we have that ability to kind of pick and choose, in a sense, how we handle things, how we schedule things, because of being on a certain level or even a limited level, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
And there's good and bad with all of that. Just so that we're having a distinction. Anybody that's listening go, oh, these guys, what do they think they are, And you're probably right. I don't know. Every morning I look at myself in the mirror and go, who the hell do you think you are, buddy? You know what I mean? Why don't you go back to bed? You know what I mean? Sometimes I do. I don't know. Anyway, the point here is having the opportunity to interview lots of different artists on different levels. Some of the guys at the higher end, I've had these same conversations. They've missed funerals because they're somewhere in Germany and someone passes away and they're in California, right? So, and birthdays and family functions, and sometimes they go months without seeing their family. Several holidays pass and they don't, spend time with that. The thing that differentiates them at that level, what they're doing, and us at our level and what we're doing is, and Chris pointed this out, is that's their means of finance. That's what's giving them their livelihood. So you make a decision. I'm either doing this or I don't live, right? That's their job. When it's a second stream of activity for a lot of us, we can make those decisions. And for some in the band, it's an easier decision than others. Yeah. Right? Because they know their place, they know what they're doing. And then for other people, it's a much harder decision. Because that passion runs differently, deeper, hotter, brighter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Again, I'm putting this into context so that you could see where we're coming from. But then based on those decisions that we make, how our experience has been. Now, going back to me, I've been very fortunate, especially with my wife. I met my wife in high school. I was already playing. She knew I was a musician that was playing regularly. So there was an early acceptance. She knew what she was getting into, kind of. I mean, who really does, from the very beginning, but been always supportive. I also made it a point never to push or pressure my then girlfriend or my now wife to attend my shows, to follow me around, to be in the tour bus and all. First of all, I know what it's like on the road. I don't want to bring my wife because it's uncomfortable. It's hectic. At times it's boring and almost it challenges your functions on all levels. And it's usually cram-packed. We're not eating the greatest. We're not at the best hotels. I mean, believe me, where I vacation with my family is not the same places that I stay when I'm on the road. It just doesn't work like that. Right? So why would I put my family in that? Like, again, I'm not Aerosmith. I don't have a big tour van. Everybody has their own, so you can bring your family. We're not jet setting from city to city.
Right.
We are riding in a Toyota jam-packed with equipment by our head. But anyway, my wife has always been super supportive. My children have always been super supportive. Saying that does not mean that it's always been easy on them either. Because
Right. Of course.
at one time, I was doing so many shows, I was never around.
Right.
And there was times when my rehearsals were 3 times a week, and I wasn't getting home to 2 a.m.
Right.
because I had to work all day, and rehearsal didn't start till 9, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then if we were recording, and you know these days, if you're working all day and the
Yeah.
studio is available at 10 o'clock at night, well, that's when you're booking.
You're jumping in. Yep.
You're jumping
Yep.
in. You're trying to figure, and then maybe all day Saturday if you're lucky to get a Saturday
Yeah.
thing. You know, it hasn't always been easy, and I have missed, again, diligent that I have not missed major holidays. However, I've left the next day after a holiday, or I
Yeah.
came home the day before the holiday.
Yep.
But I've always managed, because my kids were young at a time, that my kids are grown now, and I wanted to be there for them. I mean, that's something that I made a decision on early in my life because of my situation. Family was definitely key to me. Like you said, with communication, if you're transparent, your family should understand because of who you are, what you bring to the table, and because you're communicating it to them, how important this is to you.
Yeah.
If they love you and you love them, there's that understanding because you would want that for them as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I always struggle with relationships that I see, you know, as an observer. And again, this is just me observing. I never interfere because it's none of my business. That people get married and one of the spouses forces the other to stop what they're doing. But we were doing it before. Well, now it's different. Now it's different. I will say this. When I did get married, when I was official, and I was out rehearsing late on a Sunday night or, you know, whatever, I did start to feel a little weird. I was like, well, man, my wife's at home alone. It was different when it was just me per se. But then, this, you know, something did change. But, you know, I had conversations about it, and I even talked to the band, and I got married early, very young, and I know people didn't quite understand where I was coming from.
Yeah.
So there was like, you know, what are you talking about, man? It's just, it doesn't make, you know, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But it was a big deal. And I think the people that are aware of it will do the best they can to balance out. When you don't take stock in someone else's feelings and someone else's situation, it's hard to relate, right? Because then all of a sudden it hits you, or you get hit by it, and you're like, well, what happened? I don't understand. Everything seemed to be fine. Well, no, because you weren't reading the room. You never took time to consider someone else. When you are in these relationships, just like being in a band, you have to consider the other people. Because again, here, let's put it in a band situation. We go out, we're on tour, we're doing 5 nights in a row. First 2 nights, you're getting hammered after the show, which is affecting the day after, which is affecting your next show. Remember, now you're doing 4 or 5 shows in a row.
Right.
So now your decisions, your actions are affecting everybody else.
Yep.
Well, I'm an adult. I can do whatever I want. Yeah. But, and that's true. You do whatever you want. And I say that all the time to my guys. Listen, I don't care what you do. I do, but at the same time,
I know.
it's your life. You do what you want to do. But when whatever you do starts to affect me, then there's a problem.
That's just like being on a sports team. Like, it's the
Exactly.
same thing. You can look at the NFL as a perfect example. You know, there's a dress code, you know, there's a curfew, you know, because if one guy is off, it could possibly throw the whole team off.
That's right, because women weaken legs. Amen to that, brother. Yeah. There's somebody going, oh my God, yeah.
You are listening to The Cosmic Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
If you join a team and or a community, there's certain standards. And those standards and practices are put in place so that everybody benefits. Now, somebody's going to say, hey, listen, there's standards and practices that are put in place so that only a few benefit. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about if this is set up for success, total success for everybody. And relationships should be that as well. And relationships, whether it's a husband and wife, or with your children, with your parents, with your siblings, with friends, with your band members, there's still like a criteria that has to be followed.
Yeah.
For things to kind of go smooth. It's not two people doing something parallel, whatever they want to do. No, those lines don't run parallel. They do, but at the same time, they intersect all the time.
Yeah.
Now, again, my career is my career. My wife's career is my wife's career.
Yeah.
We intersect quite often simply because we trust each other. We're throwing ideas back and forth. We're offering our input. We're asking for input. But at the end of the day, those things still run parallel. But it works like that because of the intersecting.
Right.
If there's no intersecting, then what do you need a relationship for? You're doing it on your own.
Right.
Right? And that's sometimes why guys go solo. You'll see that in bands because they don't want that intersecting. They don't want that input. They don't give input. They don't want to think about somebody else. I get it. I understand that. If you can acknowledge that, then that's okay. That's okay. So, is it a balancing act? Yeah. And as Chris was pointing out, sometimes you have to weigh the options. Like you have to say, is this gig super important? Is this going to make a difference in what I do next? Listen, some gigs do. Let's say this. In the grand scheme of everything, no gig is really ever that important, especially on our end. Think about it. How many times back in the day did Guns N' Roses cancel shows?
Right.
Well, they're heading out on a big tour, and people are excited. So, as you can see, no gig. In that moment, that gig may seem super whatever, but has ticket sales diminished now that we know that Nikki Sixx isn't playing his bass? Have ticket sales diminished because Vince Neil can't sing, or that they got rid of Mick Mars, and that Carmen Appice said that it's all smoke and mirrors? Nope. So, is any gig really that important? We have to weigh out those options. There are some gigs, listen, and you can contest to this, I can as well. There are some gigs that just make absolutely no difference. Some you go to yourself and you go, this makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, what am I getting at? What am I, at the end of the day, what am I getting at?
And
what is the band getting at?
How many times, be honest with yourself, how many times have you finished a show and go, why'd I do this show? It's like, it didn't even make a difference, right? I mean, you know, there's a funny, it's not a funny video. It's funny when you think about it. There was a video circulating last week of Guns N' Roses Welcome to the Jungle fame. They were doing an acoustic set at some venue. They were actually doing one of the songs that came out later from that Use Your Illusions 1 and 2 album, and nobody's paying attention to them. Like Axl goes, hey, you think we can get a little darker in here? Because the lights were bright. All of a sudden, the light guy shuts the lights off. He goes, yeah, that's good.
I didn't see that.
Right.
That's amazing.
There's just a camera set up, but you're hearing people drink and eat and talk. No one's paying attention to the band.
Yeah, there's background noise.
There's tons of it. That's what you're hearing.
Yeah.
So, in essence, did that gig that they played there make any difference or an impact? Well, listen, it gave the band an opportunity to be on stage, hone their skills, right? I mean, that's the Beatles model. They played and played. They would play for 8 hours when they were in Hamburg every day. Yeah. And half the time, most people weren't even paying attention to them. They were just fiddling around sometimes to fill in the space. Yeah. But it honed that skill set that they were amazing players. They understood theory and stuff like that. My point is as artists, you have to just balance it out. If it's not your financial means, like you're under contract, like if you don't come on tour, you don't do the show, well, then you don't have a job. Well, that's different.
That's different, right?
And that's your choice. That's your way of life. It's no different than you being the president of the United States, an astronaut, a guy in a submarine for 8 months, a truck driver who's on the road 7-8 days a week, comes home a day, he's back on the road, whatever. But for guys like us, we can, and that's, I guess, what we're speaking to, because it's an indie in the trench type of show for that artist, and that's what we are, right?
Yeah.
We have to just make that decision. It's a balancing act. If you're by yourself, well, there you go. You got it made.
Yeah.
If you have a significant other or other family members, friends, you just be transparent with them. And again, if they love you, they respect you, and you do the same for them, there's always a support. Hey, man, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But don't sweat it. Does that mean it makes it easier? Is that the green card to go, do whatever you want? No, it's not, in my opinion, especially if you have a wife and you have children and if you have a job, right? Even if you're not with somebody, don't have a wife or a husband, don't have children, don't have support, that kind of thing, you still have a job. Not all of us. I've met plenty of people that don't, okay? But let's speak to the people that do.
Yeah.
Not that we're alienating listeners that don't have a job. We love you too. You know what I mean? But you still have to show up to work if you want your job.
Yeah.
So you have to work that out. You have to work that out. How many nights did you play during the week and you got home at 2 a.m., sometimes 4 a.m., and you're back at work at 6?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I just did it. I
Yeah.
literally just did it.
Just
yeah.
did it, right.
Yeah.
I've done it too. I've done it plenty of times. You know, especially in the early days when you're just trying to make a name for yourself. You're trying to, work stuff out. But a good show comes, and a good show means it's a national, you're direct support, it's good PR, the marketing's great, you're being paid well. Well, well is relative, right? Especially in this business, but especially in the Philadelphia area.
Yeah, especially in our area.
Okay, we're going to do it. You take that responsibility, you do what you have to do, but you don't forego your other responsibilities.
Yes.
You see what I mean? It's like I got to get to the gig. Well, if I don't put gas in the car, I'm not going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. 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 I think, too, like going back to what you were saying about taking your partner on the road, I think people, and it's fair, like I totally understand it, but I think people have this idea that what it's like to be on the road, it's all fun and glamour, when really it's like you said, it's the inside of a van and you're just watching trees go by.
Listen, can it be fun? Yes. Is it
sure,
glamorous?
sure. No.
Not at this level, it's not.
No, especially not this level. I mean, you're literally, in a truck, in a van, whatever, for hours watching trees go by. And then you're at the venue for 1,000,000 hours because your load-in is 2 and you're not playing till midnight.
Right.
So,
and if you toured in Europe and you rented a vehicle, unless you're renting a commercial-size van, which is outrageous, their biggest SUV is about the size of an old sport Jeep here in the U.S. Now, you try to cram 4 or 5 guys in there with a full complement and personal items, you're talking shoebox touring. And you want to bring your wife and kids in that? I don't think so.
Yeah, man. And, there have been times, listen, bro, there have been times where we've been on the road, we didn't even have a hotel. Like somebody offered up their house and we're sleeping on the floor. We're sleeping on the couch. Like, I wouldn't want to bring not that she would care, but I wouldn't want to bring my partner and be sleeping at some stranger's house. Like, it's not as glamorous as people think it is.
2 a.m. diners. Though, listen,
Right.
I like diners. I grew up in diners. My wife likes diners. We go to diners, even in our personal life. But 2 a.m. diners?
Yeah.
Right. I usually don't go out with my family at 2 a.m. That's a different beast.
It is, man. It is. And it's funny too, because sometimes, like, I'll send pictures home. Like if we're out on the road, we're at a gig. Like I'll send pictures home to my wife of like 5 guys just sitting in a room, like everybody's on their phone, just and I go, the glorious road life, like. You know what I mean? Because is it fun? Of course it's fun. It is a lot of laughs. Every once in a while, like, and I know you guys do too, when you plan your touring, you try to plan a day off where you can go sightsee and travel. But even then, like, even with sightseeing and traveling, and I've done the same thing, like you're literally, it's bang, 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 bang. Like you're traveling, you're rushing to see all these things because you got to get on the road for the next day. And it's not as awesome, as glamorous as people think it is. It's not. Again, do we have fun? Of course we do. When you are traveling with a bunch of friends, it is fun, but it's not. Most of the time, it's sitting around waiting and work. I mean, that's really all, or driving. Like it's not easy. It's not as glamorous as people think it is.
No. Now, listen, over the years, I have taken my wife to shows. Some of our other members have done it as well. But we independently traveled at that point, so it was maybe a one-off show or 2 days. And it was within 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours of driving distance.
Of course. Yeah.
So we've done that, and there's been shows where I've said to her, "Listen, we'll go and we'll do this." I go, "But understand that you're probably not going to see me a lot, So you're going to be either
that's another end of
sitting
it too,
here,
right?
you know. So sometimes I try to get somebody else to go too in that, so she's not completely alone. And then there's other times where, like, you know, like, I mean, I remember we went to New York, we opened for Britney Fox, and I knew these guys from, you know, the 80s
right
in the area. And I was like, well, you come on up, we'll meet Johnny and, you know, whatever. And so it was kind of like a thing. And we all went out to eat first, and then we got a table and everybody's hanging. So it was much more of a relaxing because I could, but there's a lot of times I'm not able to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and the last thing you want is somebody sitting around a venue for 6 hours, you know?
Yeah.
And listen, a lot of these venues don't serve food, or it's not the greatest food. And, like, you know, what are you going to do? You're twiddling your thumbs. It's bad lighting. It's not like you're bringing the novel and you got a feet warmers or something like that, you know? It's just, you know, it's usually uncomfortable, that kind of thing. I remember, like, you know, when I played at the Whiskey, the one time I played, we had gotten our own room. The next time I played, there was something going on, and they had to cram several bands into one larger room, which, again, I don't mind that either. But the issue was we all had our equipment in there, and I didn't know any of these guys. I didn't leave that room for 7 hours.
Right.
Like, thankfully, like we've talked about before, like, I usually pack food because of dietary issues and stuff like that. But, man, I'm starting to go stir crazy simply because, listen, man, I mean, I can't afford any equipment disappearing. And what's funny is that same night, the one band, the middle band, the guy comes back up. They're getting on stage. He can't find his effects pedal. Like, somebody ripped it off. It was, he's gone nuts. And we were in this room. What was funny, too, is, and I'm going to digress. This band, they kept practicing in the room. I'm starting to go nuts, and I'm starting to say, fellas, if you don't have it now, you ain't having it. It's time to pull that song. I'm sorry to say, right? I've been around long enough. If you're still practicing it 15 minutes, 2 hours before you go on, and you're having the same issue, like, I'm not talking about they just kind of, like, real quick once, and we've done that at hotels.
Yeah.
Chris, they must have did the song like 20 times. Guys, pull the song. Just pull it. It's going to save you and everybody else, and me at this point, a lot of grief. So sometimes you got to balance that out too. Listen, that ain't working in the set. Pull it.
Ain't working. Just yeah.
Because I mean, after 3 times, one of our last shows that you were at here in the States, we butchered a song. I mean, we butchered it, and I said after 3 times, if we butcher a song, I pull it from the set. And I usually holler at the guys, we're not playing that song ever again, or you have to prove to me that you have it. That kind of thing. That's the worst. You just came off a real good song, you butcher a song, you go back into a real good song. Like, what happened to you guys there? Did you space out or something? Yeah, that's what we did. So, you know what I mean? You got to give some songs. I interviewed Raven, the band, and they're doing their 40th anniversary tour of some album, and I asked him, did you have any difficulty with some of the songs? He goes, not really. He goes, we have played the songs out of context over the years, here and there. He goes, there was one song. He goes, the first night we played it, he goes, it was terrible. He goes, but we needed to get that out of our system. It was really bad. He goes, but from that point forward, we're doing, even the pros have it. I remember Billy Gibbons saying from ZZ Top, once they're done the recording of an album and it's all finished and they know they're going to go on tour and they decide what songs are going to be on the set list from the new album, then they got to go into rehearsal to learn the song. Because sometimes they're writing a song, it's demo form, and they're just kind of piecemealing it. Guy comes in, they never really practice it, you know, because there's lots of bands that do that as well. And then they have to learn it to play it live. And we're like that, too, at times. It just happens. You got to find that balance. What do you think, bud? You got anything else you want to add?
It's super important to have open communication. And like you had said, you know, about you and your situation, like you had been with your wife for a long time, so she knew it. And you know, on my end with my wife, she enjoys the music. She likes the original scene. She likes heavy music. And so she's always been very supportive that way. But we're not, you and I are kind of different than, a good portion of people. We have that. A lot of people do not have that. But that's why I think that open communication is important. Now, I'm not saying that what we do has been easy on our partners. It has its moments. But I think with, some understanding and, some talking, it can be easy. Maybe easy is not the right word, but it can be manageable if you're just open, with how this is. And I think it's also hard for people to understand, especially on our level too. Like, it's very important to guys like you and I, we put on the best show for the people that pay money. It's important to us for our fans to see a show. So it is important for us to be there and be at our best, when it comes to sacrificing other things. Like I previously said about me traveling to California, as hard as it was, I knew there was fans that wanted to see us, and that was very important to me to be able to do that. So that sacrifice, even though it was hard, it was something that I had in the back of my mind, that there were fans that paid money to see us, and it was important for me to be able to bring that to people. Yeah, I just think that communication is super important, and understanding. And I think the hardest part is trying to make people understand that this thing of ours, as they say, this passion isn't just a fly-by-night hobby. It's, it is ingrained in our DNA. A lot of us, because a lot of us, I don't know what we're going to do when the day comes and we can't do this anymore. As I get older, I'm often confronted by that, about how I'm going to be able to handle not being able to do it. It's not just a fly-by-night hobby. It is definitely something that's very passionate. So having that open communication about how much passion and how much work it takes is very important.
Yeah, 35 years plus at this age, I don't think it's a fly-by-night thing, right? I mean, I've met plenty of people that have. Listen, the truth of the matter is, everything takes work, right? Everything, relationships, skill sets, getting up and down the steps, putting your pants on, tying your shoes, whatever the case is, it takes work. But that work pays off if you're diligent about it. And like you said, it's communication. It's being open. It's being honest. That's it.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship of anything, whether it's the band, whether it's a spouse, whether it's family, friends, you just have to be considerate. I think there's a consideration. It doesn't mean that you have to curtail necessarily what you do or don't do certain things. It's just that, listen, you lay it out there. Hey, this is what's happening. You know what I mean? So that they're aware. If there is an issue, then you work it out as it comes along. Or in our band, we try to give as much leeway as possible. Very seldom has there ever been, hey, we got to play tonight. You got to drop everything. Hasn't happened.
Yeah,
like that. I have had 2-3 days, but let me tell you something. I weighed out the options.
Yes.
Like when I got the Udo call, I even called the guys and says, I don't care what you're doing Saturday. We're opening for Udo. I actually said that. I know that seems inconsiderate. Maybe it was, but I knew no one was going to pass up on Udo. This was a Thursday. Right. We're playing Saturday. We normally don't do that. If it was, hey, I need you to play at the local watering hole this Friday and it's Wednesday night, everybody's, I don't know. And I understand it. And I wouldn't even present that because of the consideration that I have towards the other guys and their circumstances, because I have similar circumstances, right? There's that empathy and compassion that we talked about. If you don't have that in your life, you can't expect it in return when you have a problem, right? When you have something you need to address with. Everything takes work. That's it.
You also have a guy that's not around the corner either.
No, our singer lives 2.5 hours away from us. Right. So we have to take that into consideration. We've always taken it into consideration. We've worked around it. And I've always said, everybody, like sometimes people panic and go, I can't do it, whatever. I says, listen, if everybody's on the same page, we'll make it work however we have to make it work. You just need to communicate to me. I'm that flexible.
Yep.
If it comes down to the end and we've eliminated everything that whatever, and we still can't do it, well then, hey, listen, there we have it. But if there's a shining light, well, then let's try to do whatever we can. Listen, you had said that you don't know what you're going to do when it's all over. And I know, because we've talked about this before, even with myself. When I got back, I said, I'm going to do things the way I think they should be done for me. What I felt that wasn't being done or whatever. I feel that when I get to that point, believe it or not, I achieved every single goal when I got back into it already. Mm-hmm. But then I said, I want to move it up another notch. And each time I've done that.
Right.
I want to get to a point, and I think I'm getting there. I really am. I truly believe that I'm getting there. That I'm going to get to a point, if I don't have any regrets and that end comes, if death doesn't take me before that, if I have to make that decision on my own, then that's what it is. Because of the balance, the consideration, the open communication, transparency, I know that when this is over, I have a solid relationship to go back to my wife, my children, their new relationships, my family, the few friends that I still have left.
Yep.
So I don't have any regrets. Are there things that unfortunately happened because of decisions I made? Yeah. Well, maybe the truth of the matter is that would have happened anyway, whether I made that decision for this or something else or nothing at all.
It's just life anyway.
It's just life the way it is.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, if you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmicvoice.com. Step into the cosmic verse and fill that void. You may find your balance. Thanks so much for listening. This is The Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
Okay, folks, that will do it for another episode of The Cosmic Voice. Mick and I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.